I have a second channel, Cube Compium TTX. Hey everybody, so here we have this power supply that I may end up using to run my overhead lights and use as a bench power supply, sorta. So this is a chickeny, if that's how you pronounce it, power supply made for HP. I think I did a video of this thing back last year or in 2020. This came out of a system that was a pretty crappy machine. At least the case was horrible. The reason why I got it in was I actually took out the motherboard and hard drive, and I'm trying to think of what else. I think it was mainly the motherboard, hard drive, stuff like that, and transplant it into a different chassis. That way I could install some things that the owner wanted. Like, I think more expansion cards. I think they would want me to use it for capturing TV or capturing VCR tapes and stuff like that. They want a DVD burner, and the case that was in was just it was one of them crappy HP cases from pretty recent that would provide the laptop style DVD drive. I can't remember if it even had a DVD drive. So this power supply originally, it just had your 24 pin motherboard connection. You had a 4-pin CPU power connection, and it had literally just two SATA power connections, and it had this little bitty SATA 5-volt connection for the laptop optical drive that I had. I mean, that's all I had, and I added these two Molex connections. I added those to this thing. Matter of fact, if you look carefully, see right there where I heat shrink them in, where I had to solder them in to here, because the PCB in this thing literally did not have enough holes. So, I mean, now theoretically I could plug this up into a computer, but here's the thing: it's kind of anemic. It's just 180 watts is all it can do. 180 watt supply. It has a 7 amp 12 volt rail and a 10 amp 12 volt rail. So it has two different 12 volt rails for a max combined total of like 17 amps. But in many cases, the combined total is typically lower. It has, let's see, this one, even the 5 volt standby is rated lower than usual. It's only 1.5 amps. These things usually, the 5 volt standby, usually you have 2 amps available on that. The plus 5, wherever that's at, I'm just going to go ahead and read this little bitty label. Yeah, the plus 0.5, plus 5.08 volts. Okay, why do they call it that? Yeah, 10 amps. So, let me see, a 3.3 volt, wherever that's at. Did I read it already? Oh, come on. 12 amps, okay. So there's you better look at the label. So yeah, this thing's pretty anemic for running a computer. So I was thinking like, why can't I not just use this unit to run my lights? So this one's a good candidate for that reason, and because, well, I'll show you. I'm just going to open this thing up here. I popped a zip tie here. So yeah, here's the inside of it. It's kind of gutless. There's not a whole lot there, really. I mean, now for 180 watts, it doesn't really need a whole lot. But what I do like about this thing is, because of the fact that it's kind of anemic, things are kind of easier to get to, and also because it has a clamshell design, it makes access a little better in that regard. I mean, this thing should be able to run my lights just fine. Now the lights I run are just typical 12 volt MR16s that LED. I used to have halogen years ago, but I mean, I use this to run the lights, and sometimes I'll plug in computer fans and things like that to a Molex connection if I'm running fans on the desk for whatever reason. Once in a while, I might need 12 volts for some kind of hobby or whatever, hobby project or whatever. Same goes for 5 volts, and so it'd be nice to have something that can deliver the typical supply voltages. And again, what's nice about this is it has 2 different little 12 volt rails, and it does actually have them marked here on the PCB, which I think is pretty cool. So what I can do with this thing is I can literally just undo this little wire harness here, and because this thing doesn't have that many wires on it, well, I can pretty easily separate them all out, and I could make a kind of a bench power supply with this. Now, some people will go as far as to drill holes inside the chassis and install like banana connectors. I'm not going to do that, at least not right now. Maybe someday I will, I don't know, but that is a good point to mention, is because this thing does have a lot of room in here. There we are. This thing does have a lot of room in here. If I did want to actually put like banana terminals on the side of this thing, I could drill holes in the casing, and I can install install those pretty easily. So yeah, this is a get you a good look here. Sorry if everything looks kind of upside down because I do have the camera facing toward me on the table here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually separate all these wires out, and I'll resume the video. So I'll separate them out, and I'm going to actually take off some of these connectors. I am going to leave some though. I am going to leave the I think I'm going to leave the Molex connections that I added in. Maybe a couple of SATA connections, I don't know. Because I don't exactly intend on running hard drives with it, although it would do it just fine. I'd have to be careful not to put any other big loads on this thing while it's running hard drive, because of course hard drives are sensitive. Same goes for SSDs, if you know what I mean. So again, as mentioned, I'm going to stop the video for now. I'm going to separate all these wires out and try to see where I go from there. Okay, everybody, so I needed a good night's rest in order to figure things out here. So what I've done here is last night I went ahead and just cut off all of the connectors, everything. And inside this unit we have a whole bunch of different little areas where the various voltage rails connect. You can see on the bottom of the PCB how they all connect. So, by the way, this thing's been unplugged for a very long time, so you shouldn't have to worry about any storage in this thing. As far as like a charge, like these caps here, they generally have bleed resistors on them anyhow. I've actually opened up power supplies and worked on like within an hour of unplugging them in the past. So with this thing we have, of course, we have a 5 volt standby, which is the purple. We have a power on signal, which is green. We also have a 3.3 volt supply, which is these orange, and we have this 3.3 cents wire, which will need to be connected together with these. So that way the power supply has proper feedback on what the 3.3 volt rail is doing. We also have two different 5 volt supplies. It's the same rail, it's just two different spots on the circuit board where the power is fed out. One of these I'm going to feed into a string of Molex connections. I'm going to use that to power things like fans and maybe hard drives. I don't know. It depends on what I'm working on. If I got stuff imaging on the table, I need to power a hard drive with this. I mean, I could, but I'll probably use the Plexi to power hard drives. So I've had issues with it before with the little the power connections I have on the Plexi that I just use to hook up to hard drives. I've had a little bit of issues with some hard drives with that. Anyways, so we got these two different 5 volt lines. We also have a whole bunch of grounds. So we have 4 different ground connections on this thing. So I'm going to probably consolidate those into, well, one will be going to the pigtail for the Molex connections. Another will be going out on its own strand of wires. The third, let's see, I'm going to use the third probably inside the unit to wire up to a switch for the power supply on signal. Not sure I'm going to do it the fourth just yet. I'll figure that out. So, I mean, I may just have an extra ground connection. Anyways, we also have 2 separate 12 volt rails on this thing. And they're actually labeled. We have 12V1 and 12V2. Yellow is 12V1 or 12VA, which according to the sticker puts out, I think it was 7 amps. Yeah, 7 amps. And 12 volt B, which is the brown, which would normally power the CPU, puts out 10 amps. So I'll probably end up using the yellow strand to power the Molex string, the string of Molex connections, and the brown will be used to power my lights and whatever other things I put on this thing. I may even use this power supply to run my battery charger, since my Opus charger and I believe my Power X charger, they both take 12 volts. That would definitely reduce the amount of wall adapters I plugged in on my power strip back here. So I did get a new power strip from Lowe's last week. It offers 10 outlets, whereas the one I had offered just 6, and I had plugged into it a 1 outlet to 3 outlet adapter, because I tell you, I had so much stuff in here. And it's nice having that, but it would also be nice to be able to cut back on the amount of wall adapters necessary. So anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to tidy up these various connections, group them into each respective bundle, and also let's not forget about the minus 12 volt and the power good. So the power good and minus 12 volt and the 5 volt standby wires, I can probably just desolder them from the board because I'm not going to need them. They're not going to be necessary for my needs. In future, should I need them, I could just open the unit back up and I can solder in a wire into the trace on the PCB. But like I say, that's only if I need it in the future. So I'm thinking with the power supply on signal, there's one of two things I can do here. I could take a drill and drill a hole in the side of this thing and mount a rocker switch. I got some switches that you just actually thread into a hole, I got some of those, or I could just get me some extra wire and run like a pigtail and mount a switch wherever I want to on my desk here. Now I can just hit the switch to switch on my power supply. That way I don't have to manually unplug and plug it in every day like I've done with the old one for the past 7 or 8 years. Yeah, that other power supply, I think I did a video of it. It's although it still works, I just think it's time to put it into retirement for various reasons. So anyways, let me go ahead and get this taken care of, and I'll resume the video. Okay, buddy, so I went ahead and worked on this thing a little bit, and did make some progress on it. So there's a few things I've done to it. One is I have basically grouped everything together. The every different supply rail. Like here's a 3.3 volt. Here's 12 volt B. 12 volt A is actually wired in with 5 volts to a set of Molex connectors. And I pretty much just wire nutted everything together. I tinned the wires because that tends to help these kinds of wire nuts work better with stranded wire. It's kind of like my dishwasher, for example. The wires coming out of it, basically they're soldered. The tips of the wires are soldered, as well as the power cord for the dishwasher. The ends of the wires are also tinned, and you got to wire nut everything together. It helps them. It helps the wire nuts get a good secure connection. So also got there's 5 volts, and I got 2 different grounds which I have not put wire nuts on yet. That's just to show you what's under the wire nuts, for example. So I just got to install a couple more wire nuts and put everything back together. I've also installed a switch on the side of the unit. I decided to mount the switch directly to the unit. So right now it's off. For example, let's say if I want to turn it on, and that will turn the unit on. That way I don't have to reach around and unplug the unit. That was, as mentioned earlier in the video, that's what I was doing with the previous supply, because yeah, it was just wired this down all the time, and I had to unplug it to actually make it turn off. So what I got to do now is mount the casing back on and zip tie the wires together to the case for strain relief, all that good stuff, and put those extra wire nuts on. I'll be able to test this thing. Okay, everybody, so this unit has successfully passed the back porch test. I'm sure many of you probably know what the back porch test is, but for those who don't, basically it's where I put the unit on my back porch, I run a power cord through the door, plug the power cord into a power strip, plug that power cord into the power supply, have the power supply switched on, close the door, hit the breaker bar to turn it on, and hope for the best. And in the case where there's no smoke, no kabams, nothing like that, the unit turns on and runs, I'd say it passes the back porch test. But just in case there is a short circuit inside the unit for whatever reason, if it does go kabam or go up in smoke or whatever, you can do it outside. So this is pretty much the completed product. You can see right there the switch. I got it oriented so down is off, up is on. I've got these Molex connections wired in. And I've got a 3.3 volt supply line, a 5 volt supply line, and 2 grounds, 2 separate grounds. And I got the 12 volt B, I think it's 12 volt B supply line. This is the one that originally powered the CPU. It's got the 2 brown wires. And I'll use that to run things like my lights and other 12 volt accessories. So that way, for example, if I decide to run a hard drive on this, if I'm like backing up data or something, I can connect a hard drive or whatever to this. So essentially, this 12 volt rail, at least the 12 volt rail on this pigtail, as well as the 12 volt rail that feeds my other accessories and lights will be on separate voltage rails, provided this unit truly is a dual 12 volt rail unit. Now some units, they say they're 12 volts, they're dual 12 volt rails, but they're not. This one I do think is. I would have to really look at it closely to be sure, though. I'd have to really look at what's on the secondary, look at the secondary rectifiers to be able to identify two separate ones for 12 volt service. But anyways, got this thing back together. Now I'm ready to actually wire it to my lights and stuff. So anyways, that wraps up this video. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Well, everybody, that's it for this video, but don't forget there's a lot more interesting stuff on the channel to check out. Also, if this is your first time visiting this channel, feel free to subscribe to keep your channel, and also don't forget to tick the bell so that way we get notified of new video posts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, but if you really didn't like it, there is the alternative option available as well. Also, feel free to check out my second channel, CubeComp MTDX. There you'll find videos about bicycling, weather, elevator tours, and all sorts of other neat, interesting stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to come back, and thank you for your support.